Hello and welcome back to my channel. Because Valentine's Day is coming up soon, I figured let's do a relationship type video. So here's my husband, Muzzy. I kind of gathered a few questions that I thought would be interesting for you guys to want to hear about and whatnot. We did get married at 20, and so, I was 20, he was 22, and so we have a lot to talk about, and pros and cons, and our process, and how we feel about getting married young. Would we recommend it? And so let's get to the questions.
Struggles.
So did we have any struggles? I would say yes and no. Thankfully both of our families came from the same background. We're both Pakistani, we're both like Shia Muslims, so we don't really have any issues there. I think struggle, I would say for me, I never lived on my own. I never went to college on my own. I was a commuter, so if you guys don't know what a commuter is, I just stayed at home and then went to and back from college. So I was never really independent financially or anything, right? So I think it was very difficult to live with someone when I didn't really know who I was either, and I didn't really know responsibility with money and that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff is you really develop when you do live on your own and you're by yourself, because you kind of have to figure it out. And I feel like I really struggled with that. What is your struggle? But I want to say before I ask him for the struggle, there are a lot of pros. I just want to put that out there. But the first one was struggle, so we'll get in with it.
The next one is pros and cons.
Exactly. So what's your struggle?
It's sort of the opposite struggle that that Farwa had. Hers was about not having enough independence or traditional maturity around living by yourself, responsibilities, yada yada yada. I think my problem was my struggle was that I had too much independence. So I lived essentially by myself for a large part of my college life. Every summer internship.
You went to Turkey for 3 months.
Yeah.
By yourself, with no one around you. I cannot even imagine doing that even now for myself.
Yeah. It was so those experiences, living in a city away
really
from
shape
home.
You.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get to the pro is that you become independent, you mature, you learn how to work with other people and share spaces and what it means to be able to resolve conflicts and the adult necessities and often boring shit, for lack of a better word, right? Bills and shit, stuff like that. You figure all of that out. But what became a struggle was understanding how to care and love for someone who shared the same space as I do. So knowing that being, I guess, for lack of just boil it down, just being more considerate, I think, and more attentive, I think, right? It was so easy for me, and in a lot of ways it's still easy for me to just be in my own world and space, because that's what you learn to do when you're independent. Instead of sharing that space.
I think a big pro is that we grew up together. I literally was at his college graduation, and whenever I think about that, it makes me happy and it makes me kind of giddy, because I didn't know who I was, or didn't know really what I wanted, or
not as well.
Yeah. I did in a sense, but not as well. But he's my best friend, and I was able to talk to him about certain things and get advice and really have a good support system. I feel someone who knew me and someone who knew what I wanted in life in all sorts of aspects. I feel and a lot of you guys can probably relate to this, is that when you're Desi, when you're Pakistani, when you're Asian and you're living with your parents, there's a sense of struggle there, and because I did get married at a young age, I was able to move out. A lot of people aren't able to move out until they get married, which is like 25, 26, 27, unless like you really like discuss it with your parents and they're more chill, whatever. But I was able to move out when I was 21 years old with my husband, with Muzzy, and that was a huge thing for me. I mean, we moved to New York City, I believe I was like 23 years old with a partner. Like, I mean, are very blessed, but I would say that if I was not married to Muzzy, I would not be in New York. I could not. Like, my parents would never let me just be like, yeah, go ahead, live in New York. Even if I had like a job, a paying job or whatever, they would never let me live in New York by myself. So that's something that is a huge pro for me, is that I was able to move out and kind of be my own person and grow up with Muzzy.
Yeah, I think, what gets lost in these sort of conversations is that at the end of the day, no matter what, a relationship that lasts a lifetime is one that is designed, built, and endures change, right? People change. You are when you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, right? Those aren't different people. So the benefit that we have as people getting married young is that we get to see each other at a particular formative part of our lives, and once you learn how to grow with each other up, right, then you get to tackle the hardest part of a relationship, which I think is growing older and going through change as individuals, but then managing that as a couple, right? So we're doing it early and a lot, but people who get married at like late 20s or early 30s, sure, you might be more settled, right? And there might not be a lot of change there.
But I feel like it's harder to compromise then, because you're so into, like, who you are, what you are.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to compromise on certain things. So when you're younger, it's maybe more of a flexible, like, you have more flexibility to compromise and change as a person.
Absolutely.
But when you get married at like 30, you already know who you are, you already know what you want. And if your partner doesn't have that, a lot of people are like, I don't want it.
And like, there's pros and cons, right? I think there's something positive to be said about knowing who you are first, absolutely, and not settling. But the issue there is that regardless of how settled you are and how much you know yourself, that's going to change over the next 10, 20 years. So as much as you know yourself at 30, who you are at 40, 50 will be different. And so if you're not in the habit, or you haven't learned or understood how to grow with your partner, then as much as you might have had like all the pros of getting married late, you'll have to face that challenge at 40, whereas we will be sitting pretty because we've been doing it for about 20 years, already. So, like, it's not for everyone, right? We've been blessed that it's worked out really well for us. And the only thing you can do is like, celebrate the pros and try to mitigate the cons,
Oh, also another great pro is that, again, like, I was able to travel so much, like, together. Like, we were able to travel together. We've gone to Thailand, Bali, London, Spain, like, so many places.
And we still have like a lot of our lives left.
Yeah, a lot of our lives left. And we got to do this together. Like, we weren't like solo traveling, which nothing against. I do want to do a solo trip just to like, and I'm sure Muzzy has done solo trips, but nothing against that. I'm just saying that I have like my best friend, and we were able to do a lot of things together, and it was a lot of fun. So, and I really appreciate that, and I think that's a huge pro.
And there's like other things too beyond the relationship, right? So I had a great relationship with your grandfather before he passed, and with your little sister, I saw her in middle school, and now she's in college, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so when she has, when she's married, when she has a kid, or whoever she becomes as an adult, like I'll be able to know the middle school version of her, and your grandfather, obviously. And then when we have kids, being able to like keep his memory going as well is, I think, pretty special. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we sort of just jumped into pros and cons, by the way.
That's true.
We were talking about our struggles, and now we're in pros and cons.
That's true.
So to formally flip the page, we are now in pros and cons.
Would we recommend it? For me, I cannot say yes or no. I wouldn't say I recommend it if you're not ready. So I think we have a video up about like how we met and whatnot. And if you guys don't click, or if you're not on the same page about life and about a lot of different topics, then maybe no. You know, like maybe you have growing up to do, you have things you have to figure out. But if you guys are on the same page and you fall in love and you love each other and you're ready to start a family together, then I would say yes. So it's really depends on your situation and if you're ready to take that next step of moving in together and starting a family together.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I think.
Would you recommend getting married early?
Yeah, I think it would be a disservice to you all and lying if we recommended it. Not because it wasn't right for us, but like how the hell can we recommend something without knowing you all, right? So like historically, you know, if the age that we got married, super old, right? People got married a lot younger.
Yeah.
Now it's super young, you know.
People get married at like 30.
Yeah, so it just depends, you know. Who are you? Where are you in your life? And
yeah.
And at the end of the day, like, what do you see out of a relationship, you know?
Exactly.
What are your values? Like, I think, so for me, right, what made, like, what put me in a position to
want to get married early?
Yeah, and then to be, like, successful for it, you know, and at least for my part, and so far as we have been, right, is an understanding that, you know, loving someone is a part of the equation. You really got to manage the communication, like the logistical, boring stuff about a relationship, like resolving conflicts and yada yada yada, right? Like I think people like this idea of perfection it's a weird thing, you know. Like at the end of the day, yeah, I don't know. This could be a bit of a rant,
It's
right?
okay. Go ahead.
I don't know. Like, so if you believe that there's a soulmate out there, it might be a bit more difficult, I think, for you to settle on the idea of getting married young, unless if you think you found your soulmate, right? But like, it's like, not that I don't think you are my soulmate, but what I mean to say is that like, is that. I think entering a marriage, there has to be some level of pragmatism that in a hypothetical world, either of us could have married anyone, almost anyone else, right? That like the idea of being in a marriage, right, is or like starting a marriage is something like you could do with a lot of folks. And to be honest with you, some people do get married with a lot of folks. So I think once you sort of like separate yourself from this idea that everything has to be perfect, not because you don't love the other person perfectly, but because you understand that there's some like work that you have to put in. Then I think it becomes more manageable, at least from like a fear standpoint, right? Because then you're not like, at least I didn't have the sense I was being trapped into something where I was like, fuck, you know, like this is it for the rest of my life. Like, is this my soulmate or not? Like, I didn't have that because of that like layer of pragmatism, you know?
Interesting.
You know? And again, like, it's like a, the only way that we could have gotten married as young as we did is that we had an intense love and passion for each other.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, we literally like we can make a whole other video about this again if you guys want. So we met January 6th, and then literally 2 weeks later, his parents came to meet my parents, and then we got married that March, like our religious ceremony. So it was very fast because we did fall in love with each other very deeply, and we were very passionate about each other, and we just wanted to be together. So I feel like if you are in the same place and you're able to, you know, financially support each other, then go for it. But yeah, that is what we have for today's video. If you guys have any further questions, concerns, or if you guys are in certain situations that you guys want us to give you advice to or for, let me know down below in the comments or DM me on Instagram. We are happy to help you guys out. And that is it for this video. I hope you guys have a great Valentine's Day. Until next time.